I think we're going to go ahead and get started here. Okay. If other people join us, there's plenty of seats. Normally, okay, a couple of things. One is that I want to welcome you to Notre Dame Parish School. Many of you are parents here, if not all of you are parents here. The thing of it is that I just want to say it's really good to be back in school since March. I know the kids have loved it being back in school, seeing their friends. The teachers enjoy being back in school. And so I just want to let you know that everything seems to be going really well. I'm knocking on wood. We don't have any COVID cases, so it's all great. So I'm loving every minute of it. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Mr. Smythe, Tom Smythe. This is my second year at Notre Dame School. My background, I have about 30 years in education, 12 as a teacher in the junior high, and then about 18 as an administrator, and of those 18, 13 years as a school superintendent. So basically, I've been around education for quite a bit, and I'm telling you what, it's a real joy to be here at Notre Dame Parish School. I've loved it ever since I got here, and I hope to continue my my tenure here, my 2-year tenure. Given that, I'd like to go ahead and talk a little bit about the state of school, our initiatives for this year. I gave one last year, and it's just about some new things that we're trying to initiate this year for students to, just to stay with the times and increase student education. Most of it is going to be electronic and some programs and things that we're going to be talking about tonight. But, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask questions towards the end. I do have my assistant principal here, Amanda. She has been very helpful. You know, she's a pre-K3 teacher as well as my assistant principal, and she's been very, very helpful. I also have our technology director with us, or integrationist specialist, Mark Hupp. He's the one that's introduced you. He'll have some questions, or if you have questions technology-wise, he'll be more than answer those questions as well at the end. So we'll go ahead and get started here. And basically, again, we're going to talk about the state of school initiatives here at Notre Dame Parish School. Before we get started, because we are Catholic, we got to start with a prayer here. So if you would join me, it's a prayer to begin the school year. God of wisdom and might, we praise you for the wonder of our being, for mind, body, and spirit. Be with our children as they begin a new year. Bless them and their teachers and staff. Give them strength and grace as their bodies grow, wisdom and knowledge to their minds as they search for understanding, and peace and zeal to their hearts. We ask this through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Okay. Every school has a mission statement, and our mission here at Notre Dame Parish School is to build disciples of Jesus Christ through its commitment to the values and teaching of the Catholic faith, academic excellence, and service to others. So whenever we move forward in anything that we do, we keep this in the back of our minds as we move forward at Notre Dame. A couple of things. I would like to introduce new staff members. No, I did not require them to be here tonight, but I do want to let you know that we did have a large turnover of staff for this coming year. We have Natalie Benz, a second grade teacher. She graduated from Ohio University. Jane Walsh is a fourth grade teacher. She is she's from the community. She also taught fourth grade here before she raised her children. And now she was our long-term sub last year. And so when fourth grade opened up again, she jumped at the opportunity. Of course, we talked about Mr. Hupp. He's our technology integration specialist. Just to kind of elaborate a little bit on what that is, differently in the past, we had kids coming to the lab to learn more about programs and things like this. Well, now Mr. Hupp goes into the classroom. It's part of our one-to-one learning. And I will talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation. but his job is to not only, implement technology, but to go into the class and teach some software. Amy Fuller is also from the area here. She's our language arts teacher for grades 5 through 8. We also have Lisa Vaca, a Spanish teacher. For those of you that are new here, we did not have a Spanish teacher last year. And I listened to the community very well. They wanted to have Spanish for our kids to go on into high school, or at least have a flavor for it before they go into high school. And as hard as I tried to find one last year, I couldn't. But I did luck out with Lisa Vaca, because she is a full-fledged certified Spanish teacher at the elementary level. Heidi Vandevort is our new music teacher. She has been in the Diocese of Joliet for roughly 8 years, I believe. And then Miss Jackie Wilson is our pre-K paraprofessional. She is new here. She works with pre-K 4 students. And then Miss Catherine Yee is our elementary paraprofessional. And if you kind of look at the last name, you will notice that is Mrs. Yee, for those of you that have been here for a while, who is our 5th grade teacher. So Mrs. Yee is helping us out as our paraprofessional. So when you see them, welcome them to Notre Dame School. Our seasoned teachers include Melanie Domke, our librarian, Denise Couric, pre-K 4, Jennifer Pizzaritsky, I always mess that up, Mrs. P is 3rd grade. Susan Weedo is our art teacher. Mary Brancato is in her 2nd year as a 1st grade teacher. Brad Smith, our physical education teacher, as well as our athletic director. Mrs. Yee, our science teacher. And Molly Ricker, our kindergarten teacher. Becky Smith, our 5th through 8th grade math. She did take over halfway through the school year last year, and she was willing to take on all of junior high math. Of course, Amanda Paul is our preschool 3 and assistant principal. Mrs. Gamley is our instructional aide. Miss Yvonne Marler is our reading teacher in the junior high, and Mr. Couric is our 5th through 8th grade social studies. Now, I did not put this in the PowerPoint, but if you have a chance to get on SchoolSpeak, they do have videos and PowerPoints about themselves and the class. We're not able to have back to school because of COVID and our normal back to school where parents come in and meet the teacher, and the teacher can talk to you about what they do in class. So they were making videos. So if you want to see the presentations and things like this, I encourage you to get on SchoolSpeak. Okay, some of those that want to know Notre Dame by the numbers. We have, for this year, 2020, 2021, we have 112 families. Number of teachers and staff, we have 23. Full-time teachers, 14. Full-time teachers aide, 2. Part-time teacher aide, 1. Administrative staff, we have 2. And of course, our part-time staff includes music, Spanish, library, and art. And then if you're looking at the male-female ratio, we definitely have more females than males. 58% females, 42% males, a total population of 183 students. Okay, some of our initiatives. We have our current laptop initiative for grades 4 through 8, and we'll talk about that in a minute. We have a number of web-based supplemental programs that you may have heard. You'll hear some new ones and maybe some old ones that we have had here. Frenzy is our social emotional program that is definitely new for this year. Myinfinitec is a professional development for teachers and to stay up on their game, so to speak, to hone their skills within the classroom, and we'll talk about that. And then, of course, the ACT Spire and Ames Web Assessment. Okay, laptop implementation. Technology integration specialist, we hired Mr. Hupp. We were trying to maximize one-to-one learning for all students in grades 1 through 8. We're still working on kindergarten and pre-K, they're still a little young to be doing that, but we're still working with kindergarten. First grade is using iPads, and we keep those in the classroom. And the reason for first grade to really use the iPads instead of the MacBooks and Airbooks is because their hands are so little. And so it's very difficult to use a bigger computer. So we try to get the smaller iPads for them. Grades 2 through 3 have the MacBook Airs. And then for grades 4 through 8, we have 100 laptops that were leased for the students in those grade levels. And then parents have the option to rent, lease, or buy outright. And we have a variety of parents that are all over on that particular thing, but they are Acer laptops. And so many of the parents that are that have children in grades 4 through 8, I'm sure you've seen those already. Some of the programs that are being pushed in onto the laptops. We got Office 365, Google Platform, Inkscape, Glimpsy, Krita, which are graphic programs. Of course, then we've got MIT's Scratch for coding, teaching kids how to code into computers. OpenShot, video editor. We've got 3D modeling and 2D animation programs. And of course, we put TestNav on that, which is basically for the ACT Spire. There are other programs as well that are being pushed in on your child's computer. So if you check it at home and you open up the computer and find another icon in there, that means it's being pushed in by Mr. Hupp. And what Mr. Hupp will be doing as soon as we get all the computers up and going, and once we get through this testing period, we'll be going into the classrooms and be teaching about each one of these programs. So that's the reason why they are being pushed in at this time. Again, if you have any questions about these programs or what we're doing one-to-one, we can always talk about this after the presentation, and Mr. Hupp will be available. Web-based supplemental programs. What we've learned since March is that a lot of the online programs that we were using from March to the end of the school year, some of them were not conducive to online learning. For some of you, I'll give you an example. The Alex Math program is what we had used before. The teachers were using that, but it wasn't really user-friendly for the students. So basically, we decided to, after my conversations with the teachers, we did not do the Alex program anymore, but at the bottom, we implemented Freckles, which is used for math class to help support student growth. But as you go, we can go through this, but we've got MemBeam is a vocabulary system, and it reinforces classroom learning in that area. It's mostly used in the junior high. Spelling City reinforces vocabulary and spelling instruction in the classroom, and that's usually in the lower grades to emphasize spelling, and it has different programs on this particular Spelling City that will, you got to get on it. We have Raz Kids. Raz Kids we've had for quite a while now, and it has ebooks on there, and expands all grade levels, so reading teachers can actually pick out a few of the books that they want them to read online, and then there's tests and quizzes that will go along with that. And E-Puzzle is a series of videos, and that expands all subject areas, including social studies. And so they use those, some teachers use those to expand or enrich their lessons within the classroom. Brain Pops is some movie students use in all grades, which includes quizzes and materials. And then, of course, we talked a little bit about Freckles. I did put on this particular slide the icons up here, so you may see a few of those when your child is going onto some of these websites. Addressing student social and emotional concerns, we have a new program. What's a little different from last year is that we had a guidance counselor or social worker that came in 1 day a week. And it really wasn't supporting what we actually needed here. We needed to go at least 2 days or 3 days, but Due to COVID and cost-cutting measures, we don't have that person anymore. So what we have done is implemented a social emotional program that teachers teach. And what it does is that when we went into COVID back March, many schools were getting kind of concerned about students, not seeing their friends, being cooped up within the classroom and things like this. And so this frenzy was endorsed by the Diocese of Joliet. And so basically what it is equipped to do is to reduce student stress, help them with relationship skills, and then help them get more focused on academic performance. It has 5 different areas that they focus on: teaching students to manage their emotions, improving ability to set and achieve positive goals, showing empathy for others, maintaining positive relationships, and making responsible decisions. These are taught in grades, I believe, K through 8th grade, and the teachers teach those. So your students, your children will be getting a dose of frenzy here. Okay, Myinfinitec is a professional development. For those of you that are educators in here, what this is a selection of professional development videos which are commonly required for teachers, staff, and educators in Illinois. If you're an educator here, every 5 years you have to renew your license. And in order to renew your license, you have to keep up on your professional development. You have to attend classes or workshops, seminars, and things like this. But then every year there's a requirement that you have to have in order to maintain your license as well. And some of these include mandated child abuse reporting, harassment prevention, bloodborne pathogens, student confidentiality, internet safety, and concussion awareness. So these are things that we have to have in order to do this. In the past, a lot of school districts had turned around and they would set up in-service time in order to teach these. But then as the state kept adding more and more things that are required, even for private schools, we can't get it all in at once. So what we ended up doing is looking at a video set that can help us with this, so the teachers can do this on their own or when they have time available to them. But in addition to Myinfinitec, there is an additional 600 non-required videos teachers can watch to help them hone their classroom teaching skills. And I just picked out a few of them, and some of them include technology integration in the classroom, engaging families in the learning process, RTI, which is response to intervention. That's been around for a while. And then, of course, analyzing student data. Now, what the thing of it is with something like this is there is an accountability that goes along with this to make sure that teachers are doing their required videos. And that means that after each video, they have to take a quiz and pass it with 80%. Once they pass it with 80%, then they can print out a certificate, and then they get the required, what we call CPDUs or credit, that can go towards their license, so they can keep their license in Illinois. Okay, assessments. We give 3 assessments: the Ames Web, the ACT Aspire, and the Iowa Test of Basic Skills. Ames Web is given to students in grades K through 3, and it's similar to ACT Aspire in that what we try to do is get a baseline data of where students are at these grades. So last week, and we're doing makeups this week, we want to find out how students are doing. We want to know where they're at academically in reading, math, English, vocabulary, and so Ames Web can give us that kind of information. So your child last week was taking these assessments. And what it does is it gives the teachers an idea, the strengths and weaknesses of your child, and where we can go to help them and improve their learning. The ACT Aspire is given to grades 3 through 8. And ACT Aspire is that particular assessment. It aligns with the ACT College Readiness benchmarks, which is like in 11th grade, when children are in 11th grade, they'll take that test, the AC test, and that's a placement test that many colleges look to enter college. So what we do is we can give it to them now and start making sure they're on the right track for the ACT in 11th grade and make sure that they're college readiness. What we're doing is we just took those tests as well. We're finishing up I think the makeups just happened today. So what'll happen is I'll print off the results and I will meet with the teachers next week. And then from there, once we have a chance, the teachers have a chance to take a look at it, then they can establish some kind of a roadmap to help your particular child, whether it may be math or science or reading or English. The last assessment we give is the Iowa Test of Basic Skills. This is mandated by the Diocese of Joliet in grades 3, 5, and 7. And the diocese has been doing this for years, and they just want to know where the students are this year, and then they want to test them again in a couple of years to find out have they grown over the next couple of years. Now, the difference between the Iowa Test of Basic Skills and the Ames Web and the ACT is that we need to get feedback right away. Meaning that if we give the Iowa Test of Basic Skills, they give us the test right away, we can use that to build student learning on that one, but we won't know if the programs that we are implementing to help your child are actually working. That's why we have to give multiple assessments to find out how your child is advancing when it comes to college and career readiness. Okay, school finance. We've had a lot of conversation about school finance, at least with in my meetings with the PTG and the school board. And what I'm doing is I'm just giving a general idea of where we're at this point in time on the next couple slides. But if you're looking for more detail, I can meet with you after tonight. But basically, the Diocese of Joliet, in their handbook, and it's been there since 2013, they have guidelines for funding Catholic schools. And I put the appendix number and the policy number there in case you want to look it up. But tuition is to be, when we raise tuition, it is supposed to be enough to cost at least, or cover the cost of at least 50% to educate each child. Okay. Then we have what is called the parish investment or the parish subsidy, or that is at 25%. That leaves at least 25% what we call third sources, the bullet point number 3. Tuition and third source funding covers at least 75% of the operation. So that would include not only tuition, but it includes grants, government assistance, and fundraising. So we've got to be able to raise money in order to do that. And in the past, it's been very successful, but it's going to be a challenge this year. Now, I'm not going to go into details about as far as the fees that have been charged right now. I think one of them was a fundraising fee, but that was to kind of help offset the cost of the 25% that we're going to need. Okay, so this is what the parish has come across as what we have as far as policy. Now, I would like to look at our current revenues and expenditures at a glance. Okay, for 2020, 2021, we are estimating a revenue of a little over $1 million. Okay. And then our revenue or expenditures is $1.3 million, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. So basically, the cost of operating per child is $7,155. So basically, just to cover those costs that we have here is the tuition. Now, I included pre-K students in this because I wanted to get the total picture, but pre-K is a little different than kindergarten through 8th grade, in that kindergarten or pre-K 3 and 4 is to be self-funded, meaning that there is no parish contribution that goes there. it has to be 100% self-funded by tuition only. And that's just part of the Diocese of Joliet's policy on that. Anyway, the reason for the large expense, the $1.3 million, is that we have bought air purifiers for the classroom, plastic bins for every student. We have disinfecting supplies that seems to be ongoing. It just continues to be ongoing. And then, of course, we have electrostatic and cold air foggers. And basically, we have, after school, we usually have RE classes, religious ed coming in. And so what we have to do is when school is out, then we have to fog every classroom, disinfect every classroom, because then religious ed kids come in. And then as soon as the religious ed are finished, then we have to turn around and defog and clean everything again. So you can imagine the cleaning that we have to do here. Now, I did talk to our business manager here, Colleen Barrett, and she did want me to mention that due to COVID-19, they have started a health and safety fund through e-giving, and I think you might find that in the parish bulletin, or also online as well. Okay, I would have loved to go into more detail about our athletics, the purpose, the sports that we have, but basically due to COVID-19, everything's been suspended until further notice. Okay. But we do have a really good program. We have an excellent cross-country program. We had students go to state last year in cross-country, and I can't say enough about it. I just, you know, it's just the times, and hopefully we can bring back a lot of our extracurricular activities after school. Whoops, let me back up here again. We do have a Notre Dame advisory board. The purpose of the advisory board is to provide advice on matters brought to them by the pastor and/or principal, but members are primarily parents of current students who wish to support the school's vitality. Advisory board members are appointed for 3-year terms, and they deal with concerns that surface throughout the years. We've only had one meeting, and at our last meeting, some of the committees were established. We have the marketing committee, the fundraising committee, community building committee, and the technology committee. Our current board members include Michelle Gravenstein, Elizabeth McDaniel, Nelson Yates, Patrick Johnson, Bridget Gilmartin, and Brian Sullivan. The board usually meets, or does meet, at the second Tuesday of every month at 7 o'clock in the O'Keefe room. And then if you have any questions or concerns or anything like this that you would like to bring before the board, you can do so, and I put the link on here. And it's also in the flyer that you have as well, or the PowerPoint presentation. We also have a Notre Dame Parish School Parent-Teacher Guild. The PTG, I mean, I'm not going to read all this, but the PTG plays a very important part in the school. They have raised a lot of funds to help the school through fundraising. They are struggling this year, which I know, but they're doing a lot of different kind of smaller fundraising, but in the bigger scheme of things, the big fundraisers are not going to be able to do, and I'll show you those in just a minute. But every month, all the money that they make goes right back to the school. And so for me personally, I really appreciate everything that they have done to support the school. And just to give you an idea, I don't know if you can see this very well, but some of their fundraisers lately have included flower sales, spiritware, holiday pie, book fair, things like this for fundraising. And then they do some things for the community, back to school tailgate party, which I think they just had. And then we're going to be doing trunk or treat here coming up for Halloween, and all of that will be taking place in the parking lot. And then, of course, to support the school, they've been really good about teacher luncheons, holiday parties, fine arts programs, COVID support, things like this. So I really do appreciate everything that they are doing. They do have a newsletter that comes out, which is on the first and third Tuesday of every month. And if you would like to visit their website, they do have their own website there at NotreDamePTG.com. And then if you have questions for them as well, or would like to participate in some of their fundraising, you can contact them at NotreDamePTG@NotreDameParish.org. The PTG board includes Carissa Bruce, Maya Clary, Kelly Gallagher, Katie Haraberta, and Bridget Zaire. So some of them you may or may not know, I don't know, but you can contact them through that email. As we all know, Father David is no longer with us. He's taken a sabbatical. And so we have Father Burke Master, who is going to be our administrator for here at Notre Dame School. I met him for the first time the other day, and he seems like a really stand-up guy, especially if you really like baseball, because if you know anything about him, he did try out for, I believe, or made it with the White Sox, and later on the Cubs, but then he had a calling to become a priest, so he left it all behind himself and became a priest. And so now he is working for the Diocese of Joliet as I believe, adult education, Catholic education. And he comes here at least 2, maybe 3 times a week. So I appreciate him and everything he's doing to support the school at this time. Also, if you have other information or would like to contact me, you can contact me at my email address, which is there, t.smythe, which is a little different from everybody else. I got that little dot in there after my first name, at NotreDameParish.org. And then, of course, Meg Collins is our school secretary. She knows everything. So if you want to email, you can email me about a question or about a concern with a student. I'll just go over and see Meg, okay? But I will do my best to try to help you as much as possible. Okay. That's it for tonight. Excuse me. I just wanted to give you a hands-on view of what we're doing here at Notre Dame School and to give you a better idea of where we're going as far as the school. Now, I'm opening up for questions if you have any questions. Yes. Okay, good question. The question is he here permanently or is it a stopgap? Basically, from my understanding, he is here until a replacement can be found in June. Okay, but I don't get into a lot of the Diocese of Joliet priests kind of business. I don't do that, but from my understanding and from what I'm hearing from him, he's here until June or until they can find a replacement. Yes. Could you stand up a little bit so I can hear? Correct. Yes, not all of it is, but a majority of it, yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, actually, what it is the $1.3 million is the operation cost. And so you take 25% of that, and that's the parish contribution to help us out. Well, yeah, we're operating, we're financially, we're fine, okay? But there is a finance committee that takes place here, and they usually meet the last, I think it's Tuesday, or is it Tuesday? The last Tuesday of every month. Now, they haven't had a meeting just recently, but Tim Nichols is the president or runs the finance committee. And so I don't know if it's open to anybody and everybody, but I do know that there is a board there, and I'm in attendance with that. But they have not met for a little while, so they'll probably be reviewing the budget. But That's the budget that's been submitted to the Diocese of Joliet. Thank you. The kids are awesome. I enjoy meeting them in the morning. Okay, what it is you're kind of getting ahead of me right now. The only reason I say that is that we just gave the ACT Aspire test, and we just gave our Ames Web test, and so I haven't had a chance to look at that. The teacher hasn't, so I really can't make a statement or anything like this. All I know is that once we get that information, then it will help us to find out how far they're behind, or if they're right where they should be, or if they are ahead. And then it also breaks down into the different groups. Like, for instance, in math, for instance, it's not just the total math. We break it down into fractions, and we break it down geometry, things like this, so we'll know where those students are academically and where they need to go. And we'll share that information with you too, with your child. But in a public forum or something like this, then we keep the information pretty general, you know. Oh, I have a feeling we did a really good job. In fact, I know we did a great job, at least, and I'm not thumping my chest here and saying this, because our teachers are absolutely awesome, and they did a great job, and we were able to get on this right away. I can't say enough good things. And I've mentioned that every time, at least between March and June at the end of the school, I think I got over 13,000 emails just between teachers giving assignments and students turning in those assignments. And we had a 95% participation rate from our students in e-learning, where I'm hearing on the news and other places where they're not even having school, not even doing e-learning. In fact, some of the kids are just running around having a good time around town and things like this. So I feel pretty lucky about that. And I'll be even honest with you, even with Amanda, Mrs. Paul, and what she's done as far as our procedures, and we were able to get in here into school. And just my own personal experience is that some of the surrounding schools that are only having school part-time, I see a lot of kids riding their bikes around the neighborhood, things like this, while our kids are actually in class getting an education. And it makes me feel pretty good about that. Mm-hmm. Yes? The ACT is new. I implemented it last year. Before, it was just, it was all we had really was just the Iowa Test of Basic Skills, and it really didn't do it any good. Again, the Diocese of Joliet, and I don't like saying that, but the thing of it is that when they give an assessment and then they say, okay, it's a growth model, so you get that back and then you're supposed to do something with it, well then there's no follow through until the following year or the next year. So you don't know what programs are working or not working. So now we have the assessment now. We'll share that with the teachers. The teachers, I'm sure, will share it with the students and the definitely the parents. But then we can move forward to find out where they are and maybe get them some extra help, maybe tutoring, things like that, or at least you will have an understanding where they're at. And then we'll assess them again in November. Now, I want parents to understand, though, that the assessment in November is going to be a little bit harder because we've had a couple months of school. So, and then we'll test them again in February, and then we'll have a summative probably in April, end of April or May. which will tell us exactly where they're at as far as globally where we are according to the college and careers. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's correct. We only gave the assessment twice last year. And so it really didn't, and then, I mean, when we were ready to give it again, it was COVID, so we couldn't do anything. So that's why I'm bringing it up again in this PowerPoint, because hopefully we can bring it all the way through to fruition by the end of this school year. Yeah. Any other questions? Well, if you do have any questions, I'll be around here for about another 10, 15 minutes. Mr. Hupp is over there if you have any technology questions and things like this. And then, of course, Mrs. Paul over here. She knows a lot about the procedures when it comes to COVID, and she is very fluent in frenzy and lower education, elementary education. So if you do, and that's it. Thank you for coming. Thank you.